There's one thing that Hiro Mashima has done a terrible job of planning in Eden Zero, which is really weird when you consider how much planning he actually does. He said before that he plans this out a lot more than he did with Fairy Tail. He's planned out the major plot points, he's planned out a lot of the fights and the transformations. He's even planned out each and every scandalous panel to a meticulous level of detail. Okay, so maybe I made that part up, but have you seen this man's browser history? Anyway, Mashima does plan a lot of Eden Zero, but you know what he doesn't plan out that well? The side characters. My biggest problem with Eden Zero right now is that the characters outside of the main cast only feel like side characters. Specifically, we're talking about Jin, Clean, and Laguna. Couchpo too, obviously, but that just goes without saying. And I know it's kind of weird to say, man, my side characters, why do they feel like side characters? But look at other stories. Think about some of your favorite side characters and how they're usually kinda cooler than the main character. For example, one of my favorite video games right now is Destiny 2. In Destiny, you are the main character. My character has about 2 lines in the whole game. Meanwhile, there's this really cool vendor known as Spider who is morally gray, has a really cool backstory, and is constantly scheming in the background and playing mind games with everyone. I am infinitely more interested in Spider than most of the main characters in Destiny, and it's because that's just how they made Spider. There's naturally more to think about with Spider than my nameless avatar or the relatively black and white characters in the main cast. Now, contrast this with Eden Zero, and you almost have the exact opposite problem. In Eden Zero, the main characters are dramatically more interesting. Shiki and Rebecca are obviously driving the plot, but there's also a bunch of mystery surrounding their backstories. Wise tends to be the more creative problem solver, and you can never really say for sure how he's going to react to things. Homura is, well, she's Homura. And the Shining Stars have some of the most emotional moments in the whole story. But now you're probably wondering, okay, if the main cast is so great, then why is it such a big deal if the side characters are boring? Well, think about what I said about Destiny. Spider is literally just a vendor in the game, but that vendor makes me more excited to follow the whole story. This one side character makes me want to continue following the main story. The side characters in Eden Zero don't do that. Like, are you really gonna sit here and tell me you're excited to learn more about Clean? No, that would be a lie. There is absolutely nothing more to Clean's character. Now, don't get me wrong, Mashima did a great job setting up her character. She was introduced as this strong fighter with this strangely flat chest, personality. Then you find out about her past trauma and you're like, wow, this character went through a lot. And you actually find yourself emotionally invested in this character once she's able to overcome that trauma. And the best part about this isn't what it does for Clean, it's what it does for Sister. Sister is introduced as this badass, rough around the edges character, but we see how vulnerable she is in Sunjewel. And with this scene, we see how empathetic she can be, how she's able to point out when someone is hurting and just be there for them. Well, she actually did a lot more than that, but you get my point. We see this warm side to Sister, and you only get to see this because of what Clean contributed. But now, Clean doesn't contribute anything to the story. Don't get me wrong, she's obviously a useful member of the team, like she did help take down Crow, but what has she contributed to my understanding of the other characters? Of your understanding? Nothing. Literally, the only thing she's done is in the beginning when all the characters were hanging out together. I was like, oh, okay, cool, they kind of feel like sisters now. Like, they just have this casual chemistry. But that's it. She has done nothing to change how I view these main characters. Again, I know you can say, well, what's the big deal if you still like the main characters? And the answer is like, yeah, I like the main characters, but what's to say I wouldn't like them even more if these side characters were used to their full potential? Like, let's talk about Laguna. Actually, just before we talk about Laguna, if you've been enjoying the video so far, then make sure to like it down below so we can help share it with everyone else. But like I was saying, let's talk about Laguna. Laguna is probably the most interesting out of these characters. He was introduced as this cool villain, and he got even cooler once he came back and started to work with the Eden Zero. We learned that he was working as an actor, but we didn't really know why. We found out he used to be a rebel, so we're like, wow, you know, this guy has some interesting motivations. He also gave us the best chapter cover in Eden Zero to this day. And then he helped us look at Wise in a new light. Because before the Aoi War, Wise was his usual self. He was like, oh, you better not hurt my friends, arrr. But after Aoi War, Wise comes to understand how Laguna is hurting. Instead of lashing out, he just reaches out and he's like, yeah, you know what, man? We're all hurting right now. It's cool. Like, I loved this part of Wise, and we never would have seen it if it wasn't for Laguna. Like, look at my channel. I literally have a video dedicated to explaining all of the potential for Laguna. And you want to know what came out of that video? Nothing. Laguna has been one of the most silent characters in the entire cast. He's had some cool moments, but am I really going to sit here and say he's changed how I look at any of the main characters after Aoi War? No, not really. And the other thing too, right, is it's not just the issue of wasted potential. It isn't just, oh, the characters could be so much better. The even bigger issue is that it actively hurts the other characters. Look at Homura. As much as I love Homura, I think she has had a laughable amount of character growth in the newer arcs. She's been on the same tangent about survivor's guilt for what feels like ages. It was a great path for her character at first, but it hasn't led anywhere. She just keeps saying the same thing over and over and over. And now you even have Elsie doing this. Like, I'm sitting here reading that chapter like, okay, so we're doing Homura's thing now? And part of it is because these characters are not interacting as much as they should be. These side characters are not being used to view the main characters from different perspectives. So my main concern here is, like we can already see, I think a lot of the character arcs are gonna start getting repetitive. Like, the main plot is gonna progress and Mashima is gonna hit everything he's planned out there, but in between we're gonna start feeling like it's a chore. Kinda like, you know, I just want to see the story end already because I really do not care about these characters. Now, obviously, there is an upside to this. I wouldn't spend all this time on my channel praising Mashima if I didn't think he could turn things around. Fortunately, he already kinda has. While the three characters I've already mentioned haven't done a ton lately, characters like Connor and Holy have been doing wonders for the main crew. Like, it's crazy how fast people fell in love with Holy, and part of it is because Mashima put a lot of thought into her character. She has this great dynamic with Hermit. I mean, just the two of them both as these mastermind planners works so well. And funny enough, her working together with Jin and Laguna actually helped them out a bit. Like, that whole part where she's like, why are you even helping me? And then we get that scene with Jin definitely fleshed his character out a bit as far as what his motivations are right now. So obviously it's not the end of the world just yet, but I think if we're going to keep this going, if we're going to keep things fresh and avoid these repetitive arcs, I think Mashima honestly needs to keep introducing new characters. I know, that's kind of what put us here in the first place, but just hear me out. I don't know why, but like outside the main cast, Mashima is really good at just introducing these villains, and either making their arc batshit crazy and then just being done with them, or introducing them and giving them a really cool redemption arc. After that, they start to lose focus. In Eden Zero anyway, I'm not talking about Fairy Tail, just what he's been doing in Eden Zero. So if he can do that, if he can introduce new characters that mix things up and make us view our main crew in different ways, I think Mashima can avoid running into these major problems. But obviously that's just one solution. So at this point, let me hear what you guys think. What do you think Mashima should do? Share your thoughts and see what everyone else has to say down in the comments. I'll pick my favorite and share it as comment of the week on my community tab. Finally, if you're looking for another Eden Zero discussion like this one, then make sure to check out my recent theory video. In that video, I explain how we already know the ending of Eden Zero. You can find that video in the playlist linked right here. With all of that having been said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.